Class is now in session. I'm Professor Hockey, and today we will be discussing some very interesting news coming from the Sharks camp. So already early on in free agency, we saw some very small moves from the Sharks. Melker Karlsson decided to walk. He will not be back with San Jose next season. Stefan Noesen re-signing for $925,000 for 1 year. But today we get the big news, which was that the San Jose Sharks have re-signed restricted free agent Kevin Lebanc to a 4-year deal worth $4.725 million a year. Now, in my preview of the offseason, I had said that Labanc was up for a new contract and that with the way he performed in 1920 in a vacuum, that he was not really worth much more than 3, maybe 3.5, which was somewhat pushing it. And I still stand by that statement. However, what this contract does tell me is not that Doug Wilson is a crazy person and is way overpaying Labanc, but that there must have been some sort of under the deal table that was made in the previous offseason when Labanc did re-sign for 1 year at $1 million. Everyone in the hockey community widely regarded that deal as a crazy type of contract, that it made very, very little sense, and it was the best deal of the offseason because he was a 50-point player and he was re-signing for $1 million for a single year. Now, you could have interpreted that as him betting on himself, which in this case, in the 1920 season, it certainly didn't work, but it seems now quite likely that Doug Wilson said, you know what, we need the cap relief in this particular season. We'll give you the 1 year, $1 million now, and I will make sure that even if something bad happens in this past season, even if you don't look that good, you will still get a fair deal. So instead of looking at this like a 4-year, $4.725 million contract, which after the 1920 season it does not seem worth it, but after the 18-19 season it's still maybe a bit high, it's probably best to look at it as a 5-year deal where we include the 1 year, $1 million he just had this season, and view it as a 5-year deal worth almost $4 million a year, which I think is significantly more fair for him, especially when you take into account the fact that his 18-19 performance was still quite good. And you could even see this in the quote that Doug Wilson gives after having re-signed him, where he specifically points out his 18-19 performance and specifically his 2019 playoff performance against the Vegas Golden Knights. Doug Wilson does not seem to be fazed by the fact that Labanc did not have a very good year in 1920, and he's certainly hoping for a rebound. Labanc is a hard-working player, and it's possible that does happen. There are certain flaws in his game that have remained there for a few years now, and we'll see if they eventually ever end up getting fixed. But he can still be, a borderline top 6 player that can hopefully put up 40 to maybe 50 points depending on the type of teammates he is playing with. Class dismissed.